Good morning, world. This is David McLeod talking to you from San Francisco Bay Area here for episode 25 of Life Matters TV. 25 episodes. Can you believe that? We've been doing this for 25 consecutive weeks, and it's just been so much fun and such an enlightening and exciting process that we've been doing, and I think we've been covering a lot of ground. And today we're going to cover some interesting ground as well. We're going to be talking about peace power, that idea that somehow when you connect to that place of inner peace inside, that you actually become, in the process of becoming calmer, you also become more powerful and more authentic and more real. So to get us started on that topic, I'm going to introduce my co-host and my buddy, Tommy Stoffel. Welcome, Tommy. Good to see you again.
Hey, David. Always great to see you, and thanks for the warm intro and welcome. Yeah, Tommy's coming to you from Los Angeles again today. I thought I might be in somewhere else today, but looks like I'll be gone next week instead, but still doing the show. So, peace power. I was talking to a friend and a student the other day, and I was talking about how when you calm the noise in your head and kind of chill things out a bit, you get this state of being cool, calm, and collected. And the response was, "But I got a lot of stuff to do."
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I was like, okay. And I thought, this word peace or peace of mind or being cool, calm, and collected kind of has this undertone of you're lazy or you're a pushover or you're a wimp or that's touchy-feely crap or it all has these interpretations by this crazy jittery ego that being at peace is a non-desired state because you're going to not get stuff done or not being, and I'm thinking, really? But that is the way it's thought of until you get into it and you realize the power of it. So today, David and I are going to do what we do. We're going to banter and chat and talk about this thing called peace and inner peace and what it means and what it doesn't mean. So David, you had some nice words in the write-up there. What's your kickoff on this one?
Well, as you know, actually, I'm just noticing as I was listening to you speak, you were talking about this perceived external judgment, or maybe it's just strictly a judgment in my own ego mind, that to be at peace means to be lazy, it means to be unproductive, it means to be non-contributory. There's all kinds of sideways judgments that are coming at this, and yet what I've noticed in my own life is when I do calm down the chatter in my mind, not only do I feel more productive and more contributory, but I feel anything but lazy. There's a complete opposite thing that happens in there, and I think you're right on, Tommy. I think that the idea is most of this comes from the chatter in our mind. The mind is already chattering, and it's wanting to be alive, and it's wanting to control things. And so when we say, well, we're trying to find that place of peace and calm, it's almost like we're telling the mind, hey, get out of the way, I'm in charge here. And the mind is then reacting or revolting or just simply saying, hey, that's not good enough. It goes into its own little temper tantrum.
You're exactly right, and it brings up this image in my head of I've talked about this before, of a mutiny, right?
Yeah.
The ship's on the ocean, and there's a mutiny, and there's a bunch of crazy mofos up on deck doing all sorts of stupid stuff, shooting things and stabbing things and screaming about the rocks and hollering and making all this drama. And now the captain, she wants to come back on board. He wants to come back on board and take over the ship again. And that crew is going to put up one freaking fight to say, you can't restore order here. We have this chaos under control. Leave us alone.
That's right. It's the inmates are running the asylum.
Right on the nose. Yeah. So that's interesting too when you talk to people about it, or people have this perception that peace has somehow too relaxed. Or I almost didn't get a job once because I was too peaceful in an interview.
Really?
Because I was too calm, and they thought I needed to be ramped up and stressed out in order to handle a ramped up, stressed out job.
Wow.
and later on, that same person who may be watching this show, actually just admires that that power and that presence that I came with, because she would give me the hard job. She would give me the difficult people. She would throw the tough stuff at me because she knew I could handle it with that peace and that presence.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's great, dude. That's so you basically turned it around for yourself and for your employer. I think that's awesome. And getting back to that comment that you made where this person responded to you, say, well, I can't afford to be at peace because I got so much to do. And I think that's an interesting thing. I often think I have a lot to do. I find myself in that state sometimes, and it's like I get one thing done, and then there's magically 5 additional things just showed up on my list, things that I hadn't even thought about before. And then when I get one of those done, 10 more things show. There's a never-ending list of things that I could be doing. But when I take a look at each one of those things from a place of peace, it often turns out that many of those things really don't need the attention that I think they need. And so I don't need to focus all that energy on them, and I don't need to get so excited and upset and concerned about them. I could let a lot of things go when I'm at peace that I can't otherwise let go when I'm all wound up and stressed out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And what I hear you talking about is that inner clarity, right? Because this inner peace, let's talk about inner peace and maybe different ways to explain it. To me, there's a lot of clarity, right? And what I kind of equate that to is inner space. I've stood on stage before and I said, people walk up and they've had it up to here. Because what you're talking about, that to-do list and that's next to-do list and then it adds and then people get overwhelmed. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed in today's society with all the stuff, all the Fear News Network and all the Facebook crap and all this stuff and everything else and all this, and you just get overwhelmed. Yeah. And to find some space in there, to find some inner space is what you need, because that gives you the opportunity to do what you said, to not, I talked about a little bit earlier, not to knee-jerk react on things and to have a little space to make clearer decisions. And you do get more done. You get a lot more done because you can sort through, like you said, the priorities of what's important and what's not important because you have some space to do it in.
Right.
There's a little bit of space is all you need to start.
That's right.
Most of us are walking up we've had it up to here and we can't take anymore. And that's where you fight back and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're drowning.
Yeah, and overwhelm and stress. Well, I hear a lot of people talking about overwhelm. Actually, I don't hear as many people talking about stress, and I find it interesting because to me, the energy is pretty much the same. It's the same energy, and yet I hear people more likely to talk about being overwhelmed than being stressed, and yet my belief, as I look out into the world, is we are living in a highly stressful world. I mean, I remember last week we talked about the more thing, about trying to collect more stuff, get more stuff, and we're constantly, if we pay any attention to television or other forms of advertising that are out there, we get constantly bombarded with the message that, hey, if you don't have this, your life is not going to be fulfilled. You better buy it now. And oh, by the way, there's this other thing, too, that you can have. I mean, it's crazy. But then on top of that, we live in congested cities where we have to travel to work every day. Some people commute for an hour and a half each way getting to work. And I mean, you know what it's like in the LA area, and I know what it's like here in the Bay Area. It's just damn crazy. I mean, all the time, and it is so hard to stay relaxed. So how do we do it?
Before we get to the how we do it, yeah, I want to go back to that. The stress in the overly tight muscles, but illness and bad behavior and a lot of other bad things. To me, stress.
Sorry, Tommy, can you start over, please? I'm sorry. Your video just kind of froze for a minute there, and
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the stress, right? It used to be stress was the main word, and you had to go to stress management and anger management, and now it's kind of stress on steroids. To me, is overwhelming. It's like the next level up. Maybe stress had it up to here, and overwhelm is, now we're drowning. And it's just a condition, I think, of society. And It happens, yeah, it does happen all around us. I say that we wake up in the morning with a certain level of chatter in our heads, a certain level of noise, and then the day's stresses add to it. And pretty soon you're like at that thermometer that blows its top. And it could be traffic in LA or traffic in the Bay Area or a boss or a partner or, you know, it comes in different forms and formats. But as long as we've had it up to here, it doesn't take much to, you know, to set us off the edge and send us into overreaction land.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes me think that, you know, in partnerships, you hear about these arguments where, like one partner leaves a sock or a stocking on a chair somewhere, and the other partner just goes ballistic. And it has nothing to do with the sock or the stocking, and everything to do with all that other stress. That straw, or the sock or stocking was just like the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, and all of a sudden everything comes gushing out, and we're blaming our partner for the entire. Hilarious if it wasn't so potentially painful.
All right, now that time I think you cut out. I heard hilarious and then painful, but I think I got the gist there. That yeah, it's ridiculous, right? What we're driven to, and so let's sprinkle a little bit of good news in here. That place of peace and that place of calm is within everybody. You had it when you were a kid, even if it was when you were a small child, depending on your upbringing. And I look at it like this. I look at it like when I was a kid, I was clear. I was clean. I was, you know, hollow, empty. I was, you know, running around having fun, doing stuff. And little by little, things started to fill up. And by the time I was 10, it was up to my knees. And by the time I was 14, it was up to my waist. And by the time, and now I'm up to here, right? It's kind of just stuff fills up. And when that happens, there's no space. And that's when there's no peace. And that's when there's bad behavior. And we do things that we regret. The hope and the truth and the good news is that the space is a natural part of us and we can get back to it. So we'll give you some tips by the end of the show to help clear some space. But just wanted to put that out there. And David, is that kind of feel? I mean, how do you kind of feel that in yourself, that the weight or the heaviness or do you have a way of kind of sensing that yourself?
Well, I don't have a specific, like an inner gauge. I do know that one thing that I can do is notice my reactivity level. If I tend to be reactive around people, and particularly if it comes out in kind of nasty anger, then I know I am stressed, and I'm stressed to the max. The problem is I don't always feel it coming as it's arriving at that stage. I don't always necessarily feel it. I've gotten so good at ignoring it. I've gotten so good at just getting used to the stress in my life that I don't really recognize how it's happening. And yet, if I think about it right now, I do notice that what I feel personally is I feel tension in my shoulders. I feel sometimes headaches happening, stress in my neck. For me, that's where I tend to carry it. Other people may have different things. Some people will carry it in their stomachs or maybe in their legs or other parts of their body. But what I notice for me personally is when I start to feel muscles just kind of tightening up and everything just kind of, that's when I know that I'm starting to go into the red zone.
Right. You get the brow furrowed.
Sometimes.
Are you building muscles here? Like some people have muscles on their forehead. You know, all the stress and tension it's built up everywhere in their body, and now it's up in their forehead. Where else can it go after that? Well, their hair falls out or whatever. But
yeah.
And yeah, and you said it nicely that you just get used to it. We think that stress is just part of life. Like I used to think that having all these worries was just part of being a human being. I'm a human being, therefore I'm going to worry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm a human being in this world, therefore I'm going to stress a lot. Right. And I just want to pull the rug out from under that belief, because that's a lie that our head has been taught and brainwashed to believe, and it's not true. It's not human nature. Our human nature is to be calm and peaceful, and it's our mind that has gotten out of control, and we use the word crazy quite frequently. We use a lot of different terms that kind of fly out of our mouths, but it's true. It's a crazy situation, and it does take work to get back to that natural state, but it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that there's a bit of a stigma around the word crazy, but I have no problem applying that term to myself because I do get crazy sometimes. And when I see it happen, it disturbs me. I think, how does this happen? How do I get this way? How do I turn that switch off? Where the hell is that switch anyway? You know, it's like that just adds more stress and then just increases the overwhelm. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm already overflowing with the reaction, and then I'm adding more to it because my reaction is making me more guilty, and I'm now feeling judgmental about being judgmental. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I can use the word crazy. I've been there, literally, so I can speak from experience about crazy. And yeah, it is. It's nuts. It's insane. Last week we used quite a few words about the human condition of the mind, and it's an illness. It's a sickness. The way our brain kind of runs around and creates a bunch of stuff. And if you analyze, everything we're talking about, if we're talking about things, we're not saying that, you know, when we stop pointing the fingers out there, right? We always do this. Stop pointing the fingers out there. The stresses aren't there. There may be conditions. The worries and problems aren't. It's the problems in here and the stresses in here and the worries in here. It's how we handle things. And frankly, we weren't taught well how to handle stress.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I skipped that class in high school. I wasn't taught well how to really handle emotional problems. Maybe I was out, you know, cutting class that day. I don't know where we went wrong, but we're not taught. So this thing about blaming ourselves and maybe piling that more on and feeling guilty, you know, that's you know, pouring gasoline on the fire, right? Yeah, give ourselves the forgiveness like we always do. You know, I know not what I do, and let's get into cleaning the house. Like, take out the garbage. That's what we need to do to clear that space.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I don't remember learning any stuff like that in school. You know, any of that stuff that I ever learned always happened outside of school. It happened sometimes at home, pretty rarely actually at home. And usually in my relationships, I will get a little bit of coaching. But to be honest, you know, I never really started learning this stuff until probably, 1995. So just about 20 years ago, I started learning about this stuff. And I started learning it by reading books, self-help books, by going to therapy, by joining men's groups, by doing workshops. The more I did, the more I became educated, and the more I learned how to deal with my own shit, and to figure out how to honor myself for being where I am, and to give myself a break and let myself a little bit off the hook while still taking responsibility for my own behavior. Those are really, really important points, and something that I wish a lot more people would do personally.
Yeah, man, sometimes you say things and I just want a moment of silence just to let what you said soak into people's hearts. Because you just summed up there the struggle that all of us go through. And to take us back to that 1995 time, mine was 1999, and it's like, why? And to me, it came to a crescendo, right? It came to this point where I couldn't take it anymore. Things were so messed up that I hit this wall. Things were broken, and I had to go scrambling pretty much to find ways to start living right and to feeling better, to feeling okay in myself again. And it took, like you said, a lot of work and a lot of workshops and a lot of books and a lot of things. But how do we don't need to contemplate the issue of how to get there. Just let everyone know that if you've hit this wall, you're in good company.
That's right.
And maybe someday we can put stuff in place younger, so we don't have to all come to this place where we smack into something and then have to scramble to get our lives back in order. But
yeah, and it's really important what you just said. I mean, somehow we have to educate the children. And I mean, after I started doing my own work like 20 years ago, I immediately started reconnecting with my own children in a whole different way, and I strongly encouraged them to, start doing some of this work. And now, thankfully, I'm glad I did that. My kids are so far ahead of me; they're teaching me stuff now, and they're like sponges. They're just soaking it all in and learning it. And my youngest son in particular just doesn't get stressed out. And I am so envious of that. He is able to stay calm and centered like about 95% of the time. I hardly ever see him lose his marbles or whatever. It's amazing to me how different it can be when we teach these people at a young age, when we help them to learn the truth of who they are and stay connected to that when they're young. That's critical.
That is critical, David. And we already had this kind of in the queue for a future show, but talking about kind of spiritual relationships and loved ones and things like that is a topic we can just spend a whole couple shows on. So let's do that. But yeah, I met one of your sons, and man, I was in awe and honored to be in his presence. So you did a wonderful job opening and keeping him clean and clear of some of the crap and some of the stuff that others of us weren't taught how to avoid, and we picked it up.
Yeah.
So here we are. We've picked up crap. We've had it up to here. That's in different times and places in your life where you get there. David, I know you teach people how to kind of clear some of that stuff. That's specifically what I do, is help people clear the noise and clear the clutter, make some space. What else is there? I want to let people know and talk about this out loud too, that it's not easy.
Yeah, unfortunately that is true. It actually, I might change it a little bit, the wording a little bit. The process is very easy. I can outline the process very, very easily. It is, however, a difficult process because we have muscle memory. It's like the issues that we deal with end up in our cells. As I like to say, the issues are in the tissues. And so the thing is, we have to get down into the cells and somehow find the way of releasing it. We can do a lot of work by just clearing our channels so that we don't take on any more stuff, but sometimes we still have to go deeper and find, those pockets, if you like, where we have stored stuff up and haven't allowed it to come out of our system. So it can be very difficult. But what I've noticed for myself, when I first started doing my deep shadow work, a lot of it for me was about looking at my shame and bringing that out into the open, because anything that I was hiding away and keeping from people meant that I was hiding away a lot of good stuff too. And so as I took the risk to start revealing some of my shame to people, at first I was terrified because I thought, oh, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna think I'm an asshole, they're gonna run away from me screaming. But the funny thing was, none of that happened. That was just my ego mind, my chatter, telling me not to do it. In truth, what happened was people resonated with what was going on for me because they've had similar struggles. They've had similar issues, maybe not exactly the same, but they got something going on that they've wanted so much to share, and they've never had a safe place to do it, and I, by doing my work, helped make it safer for them. So what happened was they ended up being attracted to me and not repelled as I thought they would be. So consequently, over the course of time, as I've done more and more of this, now I've reached a point where, hey, I get to do some shadow work today. I wonder what I'm going to find out about myself. It's a whole different attitude, and I love it.
That's beautiful, man. It's like, and thanks for sharing and opening up. I know we've talked about this level before of opening up, and it's scary at first, but it's okay to do. And there's so many of us in this boat. So it's like the minority who's not in the boat. So it's okay to open up and start to work on this and to come clear. It's almost like you said. It's like it's fun. I didn't hear you say the word fun, but to do this shadow work, and to me it's a lifestyle. I live this. I do this all the time, and I'm not looking anymore for the problems out there. And when I said it's not easy, here are some different ways to put that. it's intense. It takes intense awareness. I'm constantly aware of what I'm doing, and it takes like diligent effort. I'm always, just not always anymore, because once you clear some of it away, yeah, it's still diligent effort, and like I'm always vigilant inside, watching what's going on. Is that the way it needs to come out? Is there a button there that's gotten pushed? Is there anger that's bubbling up? Is there some other thing that's moving around? And how I'm feeling, and that's what I meant to say that it's not easy. It takes work. It's not something I haven't figured out a way yet to snap a finger work on it. But until then, it takes work, and just to be aware of that. And some days are going to be great, some days are going to be not so great. But you have to do this. It's part of the process.
Yeah, I think it's critical. We all have to do our own work. That's the only way we're going to create a world that is worth living in. If we don't do it, we're going to see more and more and more dysfunctional stuff happening in our world, and it'll just become a place that's not worth living in. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but I really do believe that each of us, each and every single one of us, has to take the responsibility for cleaning up our own shit. We have to go inside. We have to deal with our own hurts, our own injuries, our own wounds. We have to heal those in our own way so that we can support others to do the same. Until we do our own work, we cannot expect anybody else to do theirs. That's just the way it is. So that's my invitation. Let's all do our own work, and let's do it together.
Yeah, well, David, people that are taking the time to watch this show are doing the work. So congratulations and thank you. Ask. We talked at the beginning, like, what's going to be the exercise? What are we going to ask people to do? Well, my idea right now is you need to ask for something in this arena. Ask for a way towards inner peace. Ask for a way to reduce the noise, to reduce the chatter, to let go of the shadows, to have more good in your life. Ask. Again, for me, I'm going to always tell you to write stuff down. Write this down. Ask the universe for help in having more peace or more whatever you want. Ask for it, and you're going to get the answers. You have to get the answers. This is one of these universal laws that if you ask, you shall receive, if it's for your own growth and spiritual well-being.
Right. And I want to add point number 2. We've talked about this before, and Tommy just mentioned, write things down. What are the things that you really find are stressing you? If you've got a huge to-do list, write them all down, and then get rid of the ones that you really don't need to do. Just throw them off the list because they're irrelevant. Acknowledge them and say, right, don't need it, it's off that list. That's number 2. And then, of course, the third piece is what, Tommy? Forgiveness.
Of course. If Joanne were here, Joanne's kind of like, her energy is like in the background going, remember to forgive. Forgive yourself. Forgive everyone. Yeah, that's the secret ingredient to everything. It's like the salt for cooking. Forgiveness is the salt of what we're doing here, of getting better, getting healthier, getting out of the insanity, getting clarity, having more space.
Yeah, and I think as much as it's important to forgive other people, ultimately the most important forgiveness I can do is to forgive me.
Yeah.
Because I have taken on all these thoughts and beliefs. I have taken them on, and maybe at some point in time they actually worked for me. And it's okay that I took them on. I'm not going to fault myself for doing things. Instead, I'm going to just notice, hey, I have that belief, and it's no longer serving me. But I forgive myself for taking it on, and I honor myself for taking it on when it really needed to be taken on. And now I can let it go. It's no longer serving me.
Perfectly said. Thanks, David. So 1, ask for help. 2, make your to-do list and look at it. And 3, lots of salted forgiveness on there.
Yeah. And then, of course, gratitude.
Icing on the cake. So what about next week, David? I think we're just about at the bottom of our wonderful time. That went fast today.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, you know me, I like to be controversial, and I think there is a topic that is extremely controversial, and that's the topic of anger. And I really have a belief that there's a way in which anger can be constructive, and I would like to put that out there as a topic for next week. So that's going to be the topic, constructive anger. I hope we don't scare people away with that title, but I think it's going to be a lively discussion, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and as always, we will keep it as light as we can.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.